Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me in another video. So as you can tell, based on the title, well, this is big news, a big story. Virginie Viard is leaving Chanel. By the way, guys, I do apologize about my glasses. If you've noticed my past few videos, I've had some issue with my eyes. But anyways, back to the story. This from Vogue Business. After 30 years, including the last 5 years as artistic director, Virginie Viard is exiting Chanel. The house confirmed her departure to Vogue Business on Wednesday. So I'm recording this on Wednesday, June 5th. So Chanel confirms the departure of Virginie Viard after a rich collaboration of 5 years as artistic director of fashion collections, during which she was able to renew the codes of the house while respecting the creative heritage of Chanel and almost 30 years within the house. The house said in a statement, "A new creative organization will be announced in due course. Chanel would like to thank Virginie Viard for her remarkable contribution to Chanel's fashion, creativity, and vitality." Viard was appointed artistic director in 2019 after Karl Lagerfeld passed away. The haute couture autumn-winter 2024-2025 collection will be presented as planned on June 25th at the Opera Garnier. So this is kind of a big deal. Already what is happening, just if you look at the comments section, I first saw this, I opened up my Instagram and I saw style.com post about this. I saw Business of Fashion, and then I posted on my community tab. Right now, people are playing fantasy fashion designer game at the moment, and it is kind of a fun game to speculate who should go here. When I was browsing the comment section on a lot of these posts, a lot of people are actually suggesting Pier Paolo Piccioli. So he was the former creative director at Valentino. He actually recently stepped down. Sales did decline slightly. They also hired Alessandro Michele. Personally, anytime I see a celebrity on the red carpet and I find out it's Valentino, I'm like, oh yes, of course, it's Valentino. I think he does deliver on that end so well. And of course, I always think of that Barbie pink collection that he had and sort of latching onto that sort of Barbie core trend. And of course, Chanel, it's very Barbie core. But I will honestly say, I don't know if Valentino as a brand under his creative director was really delivering on the commercial end. Again, it was always, to me, some of the bags were nice, but they were never really like hits. Like they never had that kind of like it factor. But maybe Chanel needs inspiring, beautiful, ready to wear to push their handbags further. I honestly will have to say Chanel as a brand with handbags, for me, during the Virginie Viard era, it didn't really interest me. I know people did like the 22 bag, not for me personally. I do wonder if that was in a Chanel bag, how well would that bag have done? Another name that I saw pop up a lot in the comments section was Sarah Burton. Kind of in the same vein as Pier Paolo. Phenomenal dresses, gowns, evening wear. When I look at her fashion, I'm like, yes, these are dresses for like princesses. I think of Kate Middleton. It would be really interesting to see how she would be able to interpret a brand like Chanel. But I wonder, is this what Chanel is looking for in a designer? Another name that I saw pop up was Jacques Mus. Personally, I think for a young designer, I think he has accomplished quite a lot in such a short time period. He's led his brand and it's been worn by the Kardashians, lots of celebrities. But I just wonder, can he lead a brand in the tens of billions of dollars? I feel like the industry has like a real love for him. But when you contrast someone like Karl, who had worked at several design houses, Chloe and Fendi, and also at the same time at Chanel, a lot of the names on this list are a lot older and more experienced. But perhaps Chanel needs fresh new blood to bring a new perspective to a house that I think often a lot of people describe it as very like granny or something. Would someone like Jacques Mus be able to bring something a little bit more youthful to the brand, or would brand benefit from somebody that knows the ropes? Another name that is being considered, a part of me just thinks people are going down the list of all the recent creative directors that have left houses, but another name that is being dropped is Jeremy Scott. When I look at his work at Moschino, I think, yeah, that totally works at Moschino. But you know what? It could also work at Chanel. When you think about some of the popular items Chanel has come out with, like the heart bag, the star bag, and they're usually in these bright, fun, metallic, shiny colors. I think if Chanel wants to go in that direction, fashion and kind of go against the grain of brands like Hermes and The Row, that kind of more quiet luxury, and they just want to make loudness their thing. Jeremy Scott would be the guy, and I do think Carl did have a liking to Jeremy, so yeah, there is a possibility. But one thing I just wonder about Chanel in general, Chanel has priced itself at the level of Hermes. Would this be the foil to Hermes for that luxury customer that not everyone likes Hermes, not everybody likes Birkins, they're kind of stuffy, very conservative looking bags. There is a luxury consumer that really likes the whimsical side. Another name, but obviously he's not going to Chanel, is Alessandro Michele, because he's going to Valentino. I feel like he would have, in this direction, would have actually been a great successor. It's kind of a surprise to me he's not going to Chanel, because he recently, earlier this year, was announced that he was going to be the Valentino creative director. It'll be very interesting in general to know what the direction of Chanel is going to be going in. Another name, when I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, that would really appease and appeal to a lot of people. Several people have mentioned Marc Jacobs. I actually think this would be really cool. I think he knows how to do that commercial element. He knows how to make a good bag. Let's be real. I think a lot of luxury lovers have a real appreciation for him. Obviously, he has his own line, which appeals to the contemporary customer as well. But I also wonder, is he fine just coasting with his own brand? There was also a rumor that LVMH maybe was going to sell his brand. I don't know if that's happening, but maybe that's also another reason, right? LVMH is a competitor with Chanel. I wonder, is Marc Jacobs in the market to work at another big fashion brand again, or is he fine with the success of his own brand? Now, another name that a lot of people are talking about is John Galliano. I'm seeing this name being thrown in the comments section, which would be very unexpected, but you know, I think he could also be someone that could do the job. While I think the work that he's come out with is absolutely stunning, incredible, like that last Margiela collection, and I also think Anna Wintour seems like she's on a mission to, I don't say rehabilitate his career, but his presence at the Met Gala. He had a recent documentary about him. While I think his work at Margiela has been incredibly creative, I feel like the potential for him has always been greater than I think what that house could offer. I also feel like him interpreting Margiela, it always felt like an unusual match, but I do think what he's come out with has been incredibly creative. But you know, there was obviously that scandal which led to him being fired at Dior. Would Chanel want to hire him after that? Have these recent moves been enough to redeem him, and would he be able to join a mega brand like Chanel? But does he even want to do the job? I think that's also the other question. Maybe he's found like a nice happy medium at Margiela where he can be ultra creative, but he doesn't have like the major pressures of this huge, massive luxury conglomerate. And then finally, of course, I think the elephant in the room, a lot of people are talking about, this is kind of one of the names that a lot of people are throwing around, Hedi Slimane. Now, the reason why this name is being thrown around is because he's at Celine, but there was a rumor that was started earlier this year that he would be leaving Celine, and then Business of Fashion made an article and other outlets have talked about it, have speculated this. Again, nothing has been official. There has been nothing confirmed by LVMH or Celine. And I think a lot of people, when hearing about the rumors, myself included, were very surprised. Celine is doing very well. I'm sure whatever contract negotiations, if he wants to work in Saint-Tropez or whatever, I'm sure they could work it out. Especially because it seems like there's a lot of other shakeups going on at LVMH. Me being me, I just had to know, and I felt kind of awkward about this. I messaged somebody that works directly with Hedi Slimane, and I asked this person, I was like, are the rumors true? Is Hedi leaving Celine? And this person did confirm to me that Hedi is in fact leaving Celine. Now, in hindsight, I wished I asked more. That was just the answer I was looking for at the time, but I kind of wish I asked where he was going to. But yes, Hedi Slimane is leaving Celine. He's also a designer who does not have a house, and there have been rumors that have speculated he's had a friendship with Carl in the past. People had speculated that the last collection looked very Chanel. Of course, there are other names being floated. I saw Haider Ackermann. I feel like whenever there's a creative director vacant spot, people always suggest him, but I believe he's going to Canada Goose. I also saw people mention Phoebe Philo, but obviously Phoebe Philo has her own brand. I do think there is this vested interest in keeping Chanel a women's wear brand. The identity of Chanel as a woman in a man's world. If this was 4 years ago, guys, I think this would be the name that everyone would be saying. Now, I know, yes, Phoebe Philo did launch her brand recently, but if you have been following Phoebe Philo, the brand, so she had her launch in October. She released a lookbook, a website, a series of images. That was a month after Fashion Month. And then a week after Fashion Month, this past Fashion Month, earlier this year, I believe sometime in March, like a week or, not too long after, she released her edit 2 of her A collection. To me, it felt just more like an extension rather than like a whole new collection. We saw a few more images added to the lookbook. We saw new pieces and new colors, but in general, the whole concept was the same because she's building her brand from the ground up. You could probably make the case, well, she's focused on her brand. There's probably a lot of inner workings that I could not even imagine is associated with starting her own brand. Perhaps she's truly focusing on that and wants to do it right, wants to do it well, and wants to take her time. Like she's stated in the past, she wants to do things on her own terms in her own way and not feel that churn of these mega corporations, although LVMH does have a stake in her brand. If this were a fantasy pick, okay, purely fantasy, this is my personal aesthetic. I know that this is definitely not the popular pick. From what I'm just seeing online, I think people want like a Pier Paolo or Sarah Burton, someone like that can bring like the glamour of the red carpet in fashion. I think that's what a lot of people are wanting. I think she shares a lot of similarities, not in the aesthetic, not in the look. Aesthetically, you could probably make a case for Hedi looking a little bit more closer to the aesthetic of Chanel. But I think in the same kind of spirit of making fashion that is modern, elegant, luxurious, and comfortable, Phoebe Philo has that same kind of approach. It's not the same aesthetically, the look is not the same, the color palette isn't necessarily the same, but Phoebe Philo, very much in the same way to Chanel, has been one of the most copied designers. We still see it this past Fashion Month, right? How heavily imitated her fashion has been, how she's inspired a whole generation of designers. There are very few designers where I see a collection and I think, yeah, that is how I want to dress. There's still an elegance and a luxuriousness about her fashion, but I think it is how people want to dress. People felt that same way about Chanel. So again, yes, Phoebe Philo is starting her own brand, and I'm sure there's a lot of work that goes into that. But just in the way Karl had his own brand and also was the creative director at Chanel, and of course Chanel has a lot more resources. While she has her own brand, which is her own passion project, I could definitely see her also being, the artistic director, setting the vision, the direction for the brand, but simultaneously working on her own line. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't think so. I think actually probably what's more likely the case is there's going to be a creative team. We've seen this kind of trend where at Gucci they had the creative team lead for a little bit until they found a creative director. So it could be that. And much like Gucci, maybe they pick, a designer we've never heard of, right? I would love to know, who do you guys think it's going to be? I noticed that a lot of people seem to be rejoicing that Virginie was leaving. I haven't really talked about her work that much because it just hasn't really inspired me. Believe it or not, Chanel is in my handbag collection. Chanel is like a third of my handbag collection. I have 11 handbags, I believe. I just have over 30 handbags. I'm somebody who loves Chanel, but I just haven't been loving Chanel recently. If they get a new creative or artistic director, a new creative vision in general, who knows? I would love to know, who do you guys think is going to be going to Chanel? I saw this interesting post from Lewis's Mag. Now, if you don't follow this Instagram account, such great fashion commentary. Virginie Viard's departure from Chanel comes as no surprise. Chanel's growth has been propelled by the strength of its strategic marketing and the enduring legacy of Karl Lagerfeld. While business has been brisk, a shrinking market and fierce competition have underlined the need for strong leadership, and at best, Viard's vision for Chanel has been a hackneyed pastiche. I would agree with that. Chanel will soon announce a new creative organization. Whether they will implement a team approach or hire a new creative director remains unclear. If it's the latter, all signs point to Hedi Slimane, and for more reasons than one. The case can be made that Slimane is Chanel's true spiritual steward. According to fashion lore, Gabrielle Chanel has chosen Yves Saint Laurent as her successor. Saint Laurent in turn handpicked 2 designers to succeed him, Albert Elbaz and Hedi Slimane. Sadly, Elbaz is no longer with us, although everyone can agree that he would have done a magnificent job. That leaves Slimane as heir apparent. But hearsay endorsements and snobby pedigree charts aside, Slimane has a proven proven ability to rework and refresh classic codes and imbue them with contemporary verve. His stark modernist sensibility is more in line with Chanel's original ethos. Mind you, she was once the queen of black and beige, and the fact that he has achieved great commercial success at Celine while spurning the likes of Vogue and Condé Nast is proof of his future viability in an ever-changing industry. And frankly, Miss Tweed, who was the first to suggest Slimane might leave Celine for Chanel, has never been wrong. When I think about the prospect of Hedi going to Chanel, I think it is only if he does menswear or they introduce a menswear line. I think his heart truly is in menswear. Maybe he does women's wear at Chanel, or maybe he introduces a menswear that would further grow the company. Obviously, this is a major luxury house that wants to expand further and further. When you think about Chanel, it's very much a brand considered about growth, profit. It's a brand that just wants to grow and grow and grow, right? Like all of these luxury houses, Louis Vuitton, LVMH, Hermes, like all of these kinds of brands, they could potentially appoint Hedi Slimane as a menswear designer in the same way that we are seeing, you know, at these major houses like Hermes, Dior, Louis Vuitton. A lot of these big houses, they have a menswear designer and a women's wear designer. They could kind of split up the creative team like that. But anyways, guys, that is my video. I would love to know, who do you think is going to be going to Chanel? Please let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me in another one, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.